Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's story time. I'm Miss Amanda from the South Haven and Portage branches of the library, and today I'm going to read you a Halloween story. Now, the book I had originally wanted to read to you was one I actually was going to sing to you, but it was checked out and I couldn't get a hold of it, so I picked my second favorite Halloween book that we have here at the library, and it's actually a book of poems, and this book is called Frankenstein Makes a Sandwich. And other stories you're sure to like because they're all about monsters, and some of them are also about food. You like food, don't you? Well, all right then. And so we're going to read the poem, Frankenstein Makes a Sandwich. Are you ready? If you've ever made a sandwich, some of this might be familiar to you, I think. Frankenstein makes a sandwich. When Frankenstein prepared to dine on ham and cheese on wheat, he found instead he had no bread, or mustard, cheese, or meat. What could he do? He thought it through until his brain was sore, and he thought he ought to see what he could borrow from next door. His neighbors gawked as Frankie walked the path up to their porches. Each time he tried, the folks inside would chase him off with torches. "A monster! Eek!" the people shrieked. "Oh, make him go away!" The angry hordes unsheathed their swords, pulled pitchforks out of hay. They threw tomatoes, pigs, potatoes, loaves of moldy bread. And then a thought struck Frankenstein as pickles struck his head. It's true, at first he thought the worst, his neighbors were so rude. But then he found that on the ground they'd made a mound of food. He piled it high and waved goodbye and shouted, "Thanks a bunch," then stacked it on a plate and ate a big, disgusting lunch. And you see Frankenstein there with his kind of gross sandwich? This book is full of all kinds of fun Halloween poems, like "The creature from the Black Lagoon doesn't wait an hour before swimming," "The Phantom of the Opera." There's some about witches. There's one about, "The Invisible Man Gets a Haircut." More Phantom of the Opera. "Count Dracula doesn't know he's been walking around all night with spinach in his teeth." That's a good poem. There's one about the mummy in this book. So if you think this might be a book you'd be interested in, I think most of our branches have this book, and you could request Frankenstein Makes a Sandwich. Now, some of you might be wondering why I'm not wearing the mouse ears that I normally wear in my videos, and that's because I want to show you my Halloween costume this year. Let's see if you can guess what my Halloween costume is going to be. Are you ready? Ta-da! This is going to be my Halloween costume this year. I'm going to be Sorcerer Mickey this year for Halloween. We are having trick car treat at the libraries this week coming up on the 29th. And if you happen to come to the South Haven Library, you will see me in my Sorcerer Mickey costume. I have one other story I kind of want to share with you today because it's Halloween related. I'm going to keep my fancy hat on for this story because it kind of fits with the story that I'm going to do. For those of you who are from the South Haven area, you probably remember the children's librarian who was here before me. Her name was Mrs. Blackburn. And this is a story that she always used to tell. And so I'm going to try to tell it, probably not as good as she does, because this was like the best story ever when she would tell the story. And the story is called The Little Orange House. And if you want to follow along with this story, you can actually get something from your house that you probably have. You're going to need a piece of orange paper and some scissors. And I'm going to tell the story, and we're going to do something fun with our paper while we do the story. So if you want to, you can pause the video real quick, go get your stuff, and then come back, because we're going to do The Little Orange House. I've got my paper, and I've got my little scissors. Now, once upon a time, there was a very small witch walking in the woods. It was cold, and the wind was blowing dry leaves all around her. And the little witch was frantically looking for a house for the winter, and she couldn't find one. Suddenly, a piece of orange paper blew by in the wind and landed at her feet. She picked it up, The little witch looked closely at the piece of paper and said, I shall make myself a house from this piece of orange paper. And she took that orange paper, she folded it in half, and she took scissors, because she was a smart witch. She always kept a little pair of scissors in her pocket. And she took her piece of paper and she cut the corners off to make a roof for her house. Let's do that. Let's cut the other corner off. There we go. That looks good. This will do just fine, she said as she looked at her new house. But I'm going to need a door. And she always wears a pointy hat, so she made a special door. Let's cut a door. Doors are kind of a rectangle shape, but this witch, she wears a tall, pointy witch's hat. So we kind of need to make a tall, pointy door for our witch. You see my tall, pointy door that I cut out? The little witch walked in through her tall, pointy door, but it was very dark inside. She quickly hurried back out. I need to make windows to let in the light. So she cut a front and a back window that looked just like this. Ready? We're going to cut some windows. We're going to cut a rectangle-shaped window in our house. You know your shapes? Do you know what a rectangle looks like? There's my window for my house. She has a little window there. Oh, it was a fine-looking house, her very own little house with a roof and a door and windows all finished. But just as the little witch got ready to go inside for the winter, she saw a tiny ghost floating down the windswept path. And as the tiny ghost came near the house, the little witch saw that the ghost was crying. Why are you crying? Asked the little witch. The tiny ghost stopped crying and said, It's cold and windy and it's getting dark and I have nowhere to spend the winter. You can spend the winter with me in my little house, said the kind little witch. Oh, thank you, said the tiny ghost as she peeked through the window. This is a very nice house. Oh, thank you, but first, said the witch, I think I need to make you your very own tiny little ghost-sized door. So she got out her scissors and she cut a little pointy door for the little ghost. And the two friends went inside, and the tiny ghost went in the very little door, and the little witch went through her own special door, and all winter long they lived together in their little orange house. And if you want to see what the house looked like on the inside, then you need to open up your paper. Are you ready? Can you guess what this might look like? What does that look like to you? Does that look like a jack-o'-lantern? The first time I ever heard this story was when Mrs. Blackburn told this story in Storytime, back when I was just her helper, and I thought this was the greatest story ever. So thanks for teaching me the story, Mrs. Blackburn. This week, if you picked up one of our craft kits, you're going to find a craft kit that looks kind of like this. It's going to be in a little bag, and the craft is actually up on the wall here behind me today. It's a craft kit that makes a Halloween garland. You're going to find 6 shapes inside of your craft kit and a piece of yarn, and you just tape each little piece of paper to your piece of yarn, and you can hang it up and make a Halloween garland in your house for trick-or-treating. I hope you guys had a great story time today, and I look forward to seeing you guys come into our branches and join us next time for next week's story time. Bye, guys.